This was an upscale neighborhood where affluent professionals lived, renowned for its high level of security. Yet it was here that a dentist who had just spoken of love was gunned down. After a thorough investigation, authorities discovered that the case was far more complex than it first appeared. It was a meticulously planned conspiracy, a murder that the mastermind had spent days crafting, believing it to be the perfect crime. So what exactly happened back then? Let's travel back to 2015 and revisit this tragedy. Dallas is located in northeastern Texas. It is the third largest city in Texas and the ninth largest in the United States. Thanks to its intersection of several railway lines and highways, the city enjoys extremely convenient transportation, making it a hub for healthcare, education, and finance in the southern United States. North of its center lies a bustling district called Uptown, one of Dallas's most densely populated areas, filled with trendy restaurants, shopping centers, bars, and office buildings, with many luxury apartment complexes rising there as well. Known for its safety, Uptown attracts a large number of highly educated professionals. Statistics show that approximately 68.9% of residents hold a bachelor's degree or higher, and our story today takes place in this busy, secure neighborhood. Kendra Hatcher was a 35-year-old dentist, cheerful, confident, and full of life. She lived in a luxury apartment in Dallas's Uptown district, enjoying a refined urban lifestyle. Born on the 3rd of February, 1980, in Springfield, Illinois, to an ordinary family, she had been a pretty and lively girl from a young age. As a student, Kendra not only excelled academically, but was also passionate about sports and group activities. In high school, she served as both cheerleading captain and girls volleyball team captain, making her one of the most popular figures on campus. After graduating, she attended DePauw University and later pursued advanced studies at the University of Kentucky College of Dentistry, earning her Doctor of Dental Surgery degree. After her residency, she threw herself into her work, actively participating in charitable activities, including traveling to Ecuador to provide free dental care to underprivileged children. A compassionate person, Kendra also loved animals. She couldn't bear to harm any living creature, not even an ant. Whenever she encountered cats or dogs, she would stop to pet them or give them food. She was kind to everyone around her, always ready to help, and was beloved among her friends. Everyone felt that with her around, life was a little warmer and brighter. Despite her kindness, she had gone through a failed marriage which left her depressed for a long time. In 2010, seeking a fresh start, she moved to Dallas and rented a luxury apartment. There, she found a satisfying job as a dentist. After several years of hard work and building her life, she was living quite comfortably. She had a job she loved, a circle of close friends, and enjoyed shopping, bar hopping, working out, and practicing yoga. Her life was rich and colorful. The only thing missing, perhaps, was a loving boyfriend. She was eager to start a new relationship. One day in May 2015, Kendra was browsing a dating app when a spirited young man caught her eye. He was handsome, and his profile resonated with her. "I achieved my childhood dream of becoming a doctor. Now I live in this beautiful place, and I am happy." His name was Ricky, and he was from Northern California. Ricky was born in 1977 in California. Although his family was poor and he spent his childhood in a cramped trailer with his family, he worked hard and was accepted into the prestigious Stanford University School of Medicine. After interning at several hospitals and gaining experience, he became a successful dermatologist. His patients spoke highly of him, praising his professionalism and attentiveness. Ricky had a clean-cut look and always styled his hair upright, which made him appear especially energetic. In 2011, he moved to Dallas. He had been in a relationship that lasted nearly 3 years, but had recently broken up perhaps, because they were both doctors. Kendra felt a strong connection with Ricky. After a few days of chatting online, they met in person on May 24 and began dating. They shared similar values, and being both doctors, could talk for hours without getting bored. It felt like they had known each other for years. They quickly became a couple. As they got to know each other better, both felt they had found the person they had been looking for. Their soulmate. Just 2 weeks later, on the 7th of June, Kendra made their relationship official on her Facebook account, changing her profile picture to a close-up photo with Ricky. Soon, more sweet photos appeared on her page. They vacationed together in San Francisco and were already discussing buying a house and getting married, from their first date on May 24 to going public on the 7th of June and planning an engagement by August. Their relationship moved fast. On the 3rd of September 2015, Ricky and Kendra planned to travel to Cancun, Mexico, a popular tourist destination, and then visit Kendra's hometown to meet her parents and discuss wedding plans. Kendra was overjoyed by this whirlwind romance. She would sometimes burst out laughing during yoga. Both were full of anticipation, dreaming of a beautiful future together. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, they would soon be married, but on the day before their trip, tragedy struck. At around 7 p.m. on the 2nd of September 2015, Kendra finished her workday and headed home. She was in a great mood, thinking about the trip she and her boyfriend were about to take. She drove into the apartment garage, but just as she parked, a dark figure quickly appeared behind her. Then a loud bang echoed through the garage. She collapsed in a pool of blood. A neighbor heard the gunshot and immediately dialed 911. Police arrived quickly, but unfortunately, Kendra had already died. An examination revealed that she had been shot in the back of the head. With no eyewitnesses, the police had very few leads. The sudden shooting sent shockwaves through Kendra's apartment complex and the entire uptown neighborhood. This was, after all, a high-end community known for its safety. Many single women had moved there precisely for that reason. Now that a shooting had occurred, many residents were terrified to go out at night. Under immense pressure, police launched an investigation. They questioned Kendra's boyfriend, Ricky. After all, when one partner is harmed, the other is naturally a person of interest. But Ricky was deeply in love with Kendra, and they were planning to buy a house and get married. He had no motive, and he had a solid alibi, so he was quickly cleared of suspicion. Ricky was devastated by the news of his girlfriend's death. He told police that Kendra was outgoing, kind, didn't drink, and didn't use drugs. He couldn't imagine who would want to harm her. Friends also said that Kendra was so wonderful and sincere that even if you called her at 3 a.m., she would chat with you without complaint. Everyone loved her. With revenge and romantic disputes seemingly ruled out, the most likely scenario seemed to be an armed robbery. Kendra's wallet, camera, and other valuables were indeed missing from the scene. Police also found a critical clue. Limited garage surveillance footage showed that a black Jeep had entered the garage just before Kendra drove in. As soon as Kendra parked, a man got out of the Jeep and approached her. About 40 seconds later, the man returned to the Jeep's back seat and the vehicle sped away. Although the surveillance didn't capture the shooting itself, the timing suggested that the Jeep was specifically targeting Kendra. This appeared to be a coordinated attack, one person driving, one person doing the shooting. The footage was blurry, only showing that the driver was a woman. Her face and license plate were unidentifiable, but the vehicle was clearly a Jeep Grand Cherokee. That was all the information they had. Police decided to release the surveillance footage publicly, hoping someone might recognize the vehicle. Soon, a man named Jose, who owned an auto repair shop, came forward. He told police that the vehicle was his. He recognized it because of its distinctive custom rims. He had lent the car out on the 2nd of September to a woman named Brenda. Coincidentally, she was Ricky's ex-girlfriend. Brenda's full name was Brenda Delgado. She was born in 1982 into a poor family in Mexico. Her parents had 5 children. She was the second born and the only daughter. Seeking a better life, the family immigrated to Dallas, Texas. They settled in Pleasant Grove, a lower-income neighborhood in southeastern Dallas, but they still saw the city as a land of opportunity and were full of hope. Brenda's father worked as a laborer on construction sites, and her mother cleaned at the post office. Money was tight. Brenda saw all of this and longed for a better life. She wanted to lift her family out of poverty. She studied hard, was an excellent student, and was beloved by her teachers. Outside of school, she worked part-time at a flower shop and a restaurant to help support her family. After graduating from high school in 2000, Brenda dreamed of going to college, but her family simply couldn't afford it. So she entered the workforce with only a high school diploma. Not being able to attend college became a lifelong regret for her. Brenda was interested in medicine, so she found a job as a dental assistant at a dental clinic. She later moved to a spa where she whitened clients' teeth. Once employed, she moved in with friends. Although her income wasn't high, she often went to upscale malls and bars in uptown with her friends. From the outside, she looked like a successful urban woman, In August 2012, Brenda met Ricky on a dating app. At the time, Ricky was already a successful dermatologist and an assistant professor at the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center. During their dates, Ricky was impressed by Brenda's confidence and ambition, and they became a couple. 3 months later, Brenda moved into Ricky's apartment and they began living together. Brenda loved Ricky deeply and introduced him to her family and all her friends. On Ricky's birthday, she posted a heartfelt message, "Happy birthday to the most amazing and smartest man I know. Ricky, we've shared so much joy. You are my best friend, and I love you with all my heart. I can't imagine life without you." For nearly 2 years, their relationship was stable. In 2013, Brenda became pregnant with Ricky's child, but they decided not to keep the baby, which caused Brenda a great deal of pain. In July 2014, the couple had a falling out, and Ricky broke up with her for reasons unknown. Brenda was devastated and desperate to reconcile. She pleaded with him, and they got back together. But in February 2015, they broke up again, this time for good. Both understood that a reconciliation was nearly impossible. Still, they remained in touch occasionally. According to Ricky, they had simply transitioned from lovers to friends. There was no deep-seated animosity. In May 2015, Ricky met Kendra and began a new relationship, and we know what happened just 3 months later. Kendra was shot and killed. Could it be that Brenda, consumed by jealousy over the woman who had taken her ex-boyfriend, had decided to kill her? Such scenarios are, unfortunately, all too common in history. Police immediately brought Brenda in for questioning. She appeared calm and cooperative, chatting confidently without a hint of worry or fear, even trying to be friendly with the officers. Generally speaking, even innocent people brought to a police station feel at least a little nervous. Brenda's demeanor was highly suspicious. However, during questioning, police discovered that she had a solid alibi. On the day of the murder, she had been at a bookstore library studying with a friend from noon until 6 p.m. and then went to dinner with another friend. She even had the restaurant receipt, which was time-stamped 8:57 p.m., so she had no opportunity to commit the crime. But she had indeed borrowed Jose's car when confronted. Brenda said she had lent it to a friend named Crystal, claiming she had no idea what Crystal had done with it. Police also brought Crystal in for questioning. She was also quite talkative. She claimed that a masked man had held a gun to her back and forced her to drive, insisting she knew nothing about the shooting. Since the man was masked, she couldn't identify him. Police quickly saw through her lie, however. The surveillance footage showed that after the man got out of the car, she remained parked, waiting for him to return rather than fleeing. She was clearly not being coerced. When her story fell apart, she changed her account, saying she had only driven to the garage to meet a friend, and that the man had simply hitched a ride. She claimed she didn't know anything about the shooting, but when asked who she met and who the man was, she couldn't answer. Crystal finally confessed that Brenda had hired her for $500 to drive to the parking garage, with the goal of robbing Kendra of her wallet and ID. Crystal, unemployed and desperate for money, had agreed. Since she was the one driving the Jeep and was directly connected to the shooting, police detained her pending further investigation. As for Brenda, police found her increasingly suspicious and tried a confrontational approach, hoping to provoke her into revealing something. For example, "I know why you went after Kendra. You were jealous of her. Jealous that she comes from a better background, that she is prettier, that she is with your ex. That is why you killed her." But the tactic failed. Brenda remained composed, insisting she had parted ways peacefully with her ex-boyfriend and had no motive. She finally refused to answer any more questions and said she would get a lawyer if pressed further. With a solid alibi and no concrete evidence against her, police had no choice but to release Brenda, though they asked her to remain available for further questioning. But as soon as she was released, she fled to Mexico. Unable to locate Brenda, police focused all their efforts on finding the shooter. Using Crystal's phone records and testimony, they traced the shooter's phone number and vehicle. After a period of surveillance, they arrested the shooter. His name was Christopher Love, a 31-year-old African-American man, tall and thin. Since his teenage years, he had been a frequent visitor to police stations and prisons, with a rap sheet that included theft, robbery, aggravated assault, and illegal firearm possession. At the time, he was unemployed and selling marijuana to get by. Given his extensive criminal record, police were confident they had the right man. But during questioning, Love denied everything, claiming he didn't know Crystal or Brenda and had an alibi. Despite his denials, a search of his vehicle turned up a .40 caliber Smith & Wesson pistol hidden under the center console. Ballistics testing confirmed that the bullet that killed Kendra was fired from this very gun, undeniable physical evidence. Love was charged with first-degree murder. Further investigation revealed that between the 1st of August and the 31st of September, Brenda and Crystal had contacted each other 226 times, and Love had numerous phone calls with both Crystal and Brenda. Furthermore, the cell tower data for all three showed significant overlap and consistency on the day of the murder, proving that Brenda was part of the conspiracy. However, her airtight alibi and the lack of direct witnesses meant police couldn't touch her. The lead prosecutor decided to turn Crystal, who was a single mother with a 6-year-old son and a seriously ill mother, into a cooperating witness. She had a strong incentive to reduce her sentence. The prosecutor offered her a very attractive plea deal, 35 years in prison, with eligibility for parole after 15 years. Compared to the death penalty, it was a relatively light sentence. The condition was that she tell the whole truth and testify against the mastermind. Crystal signed the plea agreement without hesitation and revealed everything. She said the mastermind was Brenda. She was broke, struggling to care for her 6-year-old son, and life was extremely hard. Brenda approached her and said she wanted Kendra eliminated, offering $500 for her help. Desperate for money, Crystal agreed. She then recruited Love. Brenda promised to provide marijuana and cash, and Love readily joined. On the 2nd of September, they followed Kendra. Crystal drove, and Love fired the shot. Afterwards, Brenda paid Crystal $500. Crystal even had a photo of the money on her phone. The truth was now clear. Brenda was the mastermind. Ricky couldn't believe the outcome. In his eyes, Brenda was a good person. Although they had broken up, they remained friends and kept in touch. Even after Kendra's murder, Brenda had kindly offered to help in any way she could. He never imagined that his ex-girlfriend of nearly 3 years could be such a cold-blooded killer. Brenda's family was equally shocked. Her mother told reporters that the police must have made a mistake. Brenda was a kind, beautiful, and devout Christian, always well-behaved and obedient and capable of such a heinous act. But the facts were the facts. Police issued a warrant for Brenda's arrest, but she had fled to Mexico and was hiding there. In 2016, the FBI added Brenda to its top 10 most wanted fugitives list and offered a $100,000 reward. She became the 9th woman to ever appear on that list. The FBI also warned the public not to approach Brenda, as she was highly manipulative and dangerous. Generally speaking, once you are on that list, your days are numbered. With the cooperation of Mexican authorities, Brenda, who had been hiding in Torre Fang in northern Mexico, realized she couldn't escape justice and surrendered in April 2016. But then another problem arose. Although the US and Mexico had an extradition treaty, Mexico refused to extradite Brenda, fearing she would face the death penalty in the United States. Prosecutors were forced to compromise, promising that even if Brenda were convicted, the maximum sentence would be life in prison. Only then was she extradited back to Dallas to stand trial. In October 2018, Love's trial began. With key witness Crystal and the physical evidence of the gun, the jury took only 2 hours to reach a unanimous guilty verdict. Love was sentenced to death. Crystal, due to her plea agreement, was spared a trial and was sentenced to 35 years in prison with no chance of parole for 15 years. In May 2019, Brenda's trial began. In court, she maintained a cold demeanor, never once looking at Kendra's grieving family, showing no remorse, and continuing to deny the charges. However, based on the evidence and testimony from multiple witnesses, especially Crystal's testimony, police had reconstructed the events. After breaking up with Ricky, Brenda couldn't let go. She deliberately created coincidental encounters, going to the same gym, running along the same routes, eating at the same restaurants. She secretly kept a key to Ricky's apartment and knew his iCloud and email passwords. She frequently checked his emails, looked at his photo albums, and tracked his every move. She wanted to control everything about Ricky and win him back, but she failed. Ricky had moved on and found Kendra. When Brenda learned this, she was devastated, especially when she saw Kendra's Facebook posts sharing their romantic travel photos and their plans to marry. She couldn't bear the thought of another woman taking away her true love. She turned all her rage toward Kendra and developed a crazy desire for revenge. Brenda first approached her cousin, asking him to beat Kendra with a baseball bat. The worse, the better. She offered to buy him a car or pay him cash in return. Her cousin later testified that he thought she was drunk and talking nonsense, so he didn't take her seriously and refused. Rejected. Brenda then asked her friend Jennifer to attack Kendra with a bat or inject her with drugs to knock her unconscious. In return, she offered a car, $2,000, and some drugs. Jennifer later testified that she told her parents about it, and they thought Brenda was insane, so she refused. Another friend said Brenda was pathologically obsessed with Ricky, always talking about him. She had been considering sharing an apartment with Brenda, but after hearing her constantly recount her relationship with Ricky and talk about killing Kendra, she felt Brenda was too dangerous and cut ties. Brenda even approached an old high school classmate, asking him to teach Kendra a lesson, but he also refused. In fact, Brenda had openly recruited many people during that time, all with the goal of harming Kendra, but no one was foolish enough to agree until she found Crystal. According to Crystal, she was so poor that she agreed to the $500 job without thinking it through. Fearing that two women might not succeed, they brought in Love. In reality, they didn't know Love well. He was a friend of Crystal's neighbor, and they had met by chance. After learning about Love's criminal record, Brenda fabricated a story, claiming she was part of a cartel involved in drug trafficking. She promised that if Love helped her eliminate someone, she would supply him with a steady stream of drugs and cash. A career criminal, Love agreed without hesitation. The three plotted to kill Kendra. Brenda proposed options including shooting, drug injection, and kidnapping. Love decided that shooting was easiest, and since he already had a gun, they settled on that plan. They learned that Kendra was leaving on vacation on the 3rd of September, so they set the date for the 2nd of September. Brenda believed she had devised the perfect crime. First, she needed a car. She borrowed a BMW from a friend, then took it to Jose's auto shop, claiming it needed repairs, and used that as an excuse to borrow Jose's Jeep. Second, she needed an alibi. She had Crystal drop her off at the library at noon, where she met a friend to study at 6 p.m. She met another friend at a restaurant for dinner, creating a perfect alibi while she was eating. Crystal and Love were already in action. They had arrived at Kendra's apartment garage early and were waiting. When they saw Kendra's car approach, Love got out and fired the fatal shot. Afterward, he stole her wallet and camera to make it look like a robbery. Finally, after Brenda called to confirm that the job was done, she had Crystal return the Jeep to Jose. The next day, when police released the garage surveillance footage, Brenda lied to Jose, saying Crystal might have used the car for a drug deal and that he should avoid driving it, and even suggested he change its color. She then exchanged hundreds of calls and texts with Love and Crystal, coordinating their alibis. If questioned, they would all deny everything and tell various lies. Fortunately, Jose discussed the situation with his family and decided to go to the police, which led them to the Jeep and eventually exposed the whole conspiracy. With testimony from Crystal, Ricky, and other witnesses, along with the physical evidence, the jury took just 20 minutes to reach a unanimous guilty verdict. Brenda had faced the possibility of the death penalty, but because of the promise made to Mexican authorities, she was ultimately sentenced to life in prison without parole. Ricky was visibly devastated in court and couldn't bear to look at Brenda. Only when asked to identify the defendant did he turn to face her.
And I think if you asked anybody who knew her, one thing they remember most or miss most, it would be her laugh. She was full of life and full of love and just gave everything she had to everybody. And when I heard that this had happened to her, I know I'm getting off topic, but I couldn't imagine who would do it. I couldn't imagine who would hurt her because nobody disliked her. Nobody would have heard her that knew her.
Interestingly, after Love was sentenced to death, some people actually came to his defense, claiming the trial was unfair. that the gun found in his car wasn't the actual murder weapon, and that there was no fingerprint or DNA evidence linking him to the shooting. They also claimed that Crystal's testimony was false and fabricated, and that Love had been convicted because the jury was racially biased against black people. A petition was started to free Love. However, only 803 people have signed it so far, and police have not responded. In reality, Crystal, the key witness in Love's trial, testified in court that everything she said was absolutely true. If she had lied, she would have faced the death penalty, so she had no reason to perjure herself. Reflecting on this case, Brenda grew up in poverty but worked hard to improve herself. To outsiders, she seemed like a kind and devout girl, but when the shadow of lost love enveloped her heart, she chose the most extreme path of revenge. When love turns into obsession, when resentment turns into hatred, even the most polite person can harbor the darkest intentions, and a kind person, completely unaware, becomes the victim of that obsession. Truly heartbreaking. That is today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like and subscribe. Your support means the world to me.